Hello students, this is your course on content marketing. In this video on developing relevant content, we are going to talk about design to support content and how that is made possible by content marketing managers. How does design support content? Content can become more effective and value adding with the right design. At the same time, poor design can detract from quality content and even discourage users from consuming such content. However, every relevant content development journey or process begins by creating the content first, and it cannot happen that you have the design ready and not have the content. But once the content is ready, the next obvious and logical step is optimizing the content with the right kind of design, keeping the target audience in mind. So, if you're looking to create a fashion blog, then your target audience could be youth, could be fashion enthusiasts, and the color schema, the typography, the flow of information, the titles, the language that you will be using in your overall blog design would be very different from a professional website that you will be creating for financial service providing company, because their target audience will vary. The way they want content represented for them to consume it will also vary, and therefore the design would definitely change for that kind of content. So what you need to remember is that design is a supporting element to content and cannot be ignored, and therefore before you publish your content, it's essential that you have a designer, a developer on your team who can shape it into the best possible representable format. Now, design makes content more readable to begin with. If you compare these two examples over here, the first format is just the result of good design, wherein the headings are properly highlighted, the content has a good, clear flow, and relevant information is broken down into easily discernible and shorter paragraphs, and wherever required, lists are also given for a user or a reader to completely understand if that this is a listicle or this is a multiple step information which he's consuming. And there is a clear title at the top also, again making the reader understand better what the content is all about. When you compare it with the content on the right side, the headings are present, the content is exactly same, but the representation is lacking and it looks dull, it's difficult to read, mainly because the design element is not present, it is not formatted properly, and therefore it is not ready to be published on a website or a blog or a social platform. What you usually receive from your content team is what you see on the right side, and what you should be publishing on your own properties is what you see on the left side, which is the final design version of the content. Design also offers clarity and appeal to your customers, because with the right kind of design, you can draw your customers' attention to a specific location on the content or location on the page, and even encourage them, motivate them to take specific actions after consuming your content. As you can see here, the CTA button for downloading a particular content format is very boldly presented in the middle of the right side of the screen, and you understand right away that this is a particular content that is promoting another type of content, and by looking at this particular communication you understand what you are required to do. And as your eyes flow from the top, you understand that the particular message is about the number one mistake that can slow someone's success on Instagram. Then there is a brief subheading, and then there is description of what is more on offer. that you can receive by clicking on the download now CTA button. So, this kind of clarity is difficult to achieve by an undesigned content. Yes, a very highly engaged user would definitely take the time to even find a hyperlink which is hidden away in your otherwise laborious content if they want to. But if you want higher traffic, better CTR, better conversions, then the design has to support what you are trying to say your core message is. Setting up clear content and design guidelines, therefore, is the way to go. And this is something which you can do as soon as you start developing content through in house as well as freelance resources. So, clear content guidelines can talk about the voice and tone, which is desirable in every content format. Then, whatever voice guidelines are there, whatever tone you want to use, grammar and mechanics, best practices if you have any, any particular stance that your brand has on naming, any actionable language. For instance, in the previous example, actionable languages download now, which you want to use in the communication, in the content, and which you want your content creators to therefore apply in every content format. Then if for specific documentation, specific type of product content, if you want particular details, and you can capture that in clear guidelines. The example that you see here is from Shopify that have created such a detailed guideline um, resource to help people design readily acceptable and publishable content for their platform. For example, in case of voice and tone, they have informed their content creators that they should be real, not too tough or overly familiar, but they have an upfront and honest way of communicating with clarity and empathy. They should be proactive but not needy or pushy. So, energy should be felt, but it should not be dominating. It should be dynamic but not very scattered and always changing. And what they tell is that this is not a hand holding device, this is a guideline which helps you understand what kind of content would help your business best. So, in the same fashion, the same logic, when you are starting to strategize and execute your content marketing campaign, you can also create some basic guidelines for any and everyone in the team who is going to be responsible for creating different content formats for eventual publication. This would ensure a consistency in voice, tone, and the quality of content that you will be publishing on various platforms. Just like you have to create content guidelines, you can also create design guidelines for the designers and developers who are part of your content team. Even if they are freelancers, even if they are agency service providers, these guidelines would make it easier for them to understand what your expectations are and deliver ready to publish material in one or two iterations itself. So, the major things that you can capture in design guidelines are perhaps the colors, which should be included in the ready to publish content format. You can define a color palette, color combinations which are acceptable and which are not acceptable, what color usage is allowed, the accessibility and resources for these colors, and how they match with your brand image on the whole. Similarly, you can also have guidelines for typography, then illustrations to be included, how you want, what kind of illustrations to be included, what size, and all that. Then, if you are using your content team to develop audio and video files, also this type of content, then clear guidelines for sounds also, and the video quality also will have to be decided. Any tools that can be used for creation and editing, those have to be provided. Any icons or interaction states which are being included in the content, they can also be predefined in a clear guideline to ensure that the design element is adding value to your content and not taking away value from it. As you can see here, this is a guideline on color combinations where the site Shopify recommends that using any light background color with its corresponding text color is advisable, and having contrast colors in this particular context is not advisable, and primary background color with white text is also okay, but low contrast color is not okay. So this is how the website wants all its content to look like, and therefore they have defined it as a guideline. There are still content creators and designers that may deviate from it here, but when you're talking about a brand specific content marketing strategy, deviations can be absolutely nil. So, in case of typography, also you can determine what would be the type scale, additional emphasis, how it will be given. Should you only go for bold or underlining? Then display styles that are acceptable for the content that you want to publish. Emphasis styles, font stack that is usable, resources which could be used for getting the right typography, mobile type scale, how it can be, would it be same as the website or different, and mobile variable font sizes, how it will be. What you see here is a subheading related guideline that how it should be arranged under the heading, and what is the do's and don'ts. That, for a designer, it becomes easy to understand that if a content has multiple subheadings, then what is the best way to arrange those subheadings, and what kind of design options then should be avoided before completing the draft. So that's about design, complementing and supporting content, and becoming therefore a major attribute before it is published. Next up, we'll talk about structure of great content, and this is something from the editorial point of view. Before you finally publish your content, what things you should ensure about every single piece of content that you're churning out. Until then, thank you.